everybody to ISG, another free lesson on a weekly basis already. And we have a wonderful speaker today, which is Alper Rozanes. Big applause.
Thank you all for coming. Today I'm going to be speaking about the presentations and what the problem is, because I believe there's a problem, and I have been able to confirm this with many more people who said, yes, I think this problem exists. Like I said, there is a serious problem, especially with the business presentations, but in presentations in general. And the problem is this. These are actual audience photos from presentations or speeches or gatherings. And look, there obviously is a problem. Including myself, I'm sure you have been in situations where someone started speaking, someone started making a presentation, and it didn't go well, and you started getting bored. But this is not a new phenomenon. History is filled with people who are bored with presentations or public speaking, especially when people tell them to, okay, just sit down and listen, which is almost impossible. So in order to understand how this problem began, I will take you on a time travel. So famously, from the 2020, we will go all the way back to 1987. Now, 1987 is the date that PowerPoint came to existence. I'm not saying that it's the root cause of the problem, but the way we use it, especially in the presentations, is the cause. Today, on these 30 million presentations every single day, 365 days a year, roughly speaking, we're talking about 30 million times every day that people gather in a room and somebody tells them something. And they usually do it like this. If you realize, actually, there's a guy on the stage who is embedded into his message. But unfortunately, it doesn't work. We have a very bad attention span when it comes to interpreting complicated messages, especially if they are like in the shape of the slides that you saw before. We are so bad that right now we actually have the attention span shorter than a goldfish. Why is it important? Because we perceive these things visually. In order to give you an idea on how strong this sense is, I would like to take you on another journey. And this time we sit in a room. On the table, there are huge stacks of paper with photos on them, and they take one of those photos and show you only for 2 seconds. And they put it on the side. They take another one and show it for 2 seconds. They repeat this for 2,500 times. So none of the photos are the same. They are completely unique, different from each other. And you are exposed to 2,500 photos only for 2 seconds each. Then the research is finished, you shake hands, you leave, but you came back to the same table after 3 days. Again, the same person is sitting in front of you, there's a stack of photos next to him or her, picks up one of them, shows you, and asks a very simple question. This photo that I'm showing you right now, was it among the 2,500 photos that you saw 3 days ago for 2 seconds only? How much do you think accurately we could remember? The number is actually huge. With 90% accuracy, we are able to recognize something visual that we saw, some time ago. Now, the interesting thing is, if you were to meet with this person 1 year later, you will still be accurately recollecting more than 50% of the photos that you saw only for 2 seconds each. So that is how strong the visual perception is. And it's something in the brain. However, in the same brain, when we're exposed to information written in written form or in the shape of spoken words, we only have a 10% of accurate recollection after the same amount of time. However, catch this. If you were to accompany that written or spoken information with a visual, suddenly the recollection accuracy goes up 6 times, more than 6 times. This is the power of visual perception. However, with great power comes great responsibility. And the issue is, if I hit the person, the other person's visual perception with this, the brain automatically shuts down. I think maybe through the natural laws of efficiency. So if there is only one thing that we need to remember about the visual perception, that's we need to practice brevity in the way that we communicate with people, in the shape of slides or spoken words or written. We need to practice brevity. How do we make a successful presentation or a compelling presentation? And with that, I would like to share with you three main pillars. And they are the content of the presentation, the design of the slides, if we are using a slide software, and in most cases we are, and the way we deliver that. I would like to throw your way three important cardinal questions to ask. But we ask these questions before the presentation, not during, not after, before the presentations. Why should I listen to this? The second question that they're going to ask is, what exactly are you saying? What is it that exactly I'm saying? As simple as possible. And of course, they will want to know, okay, great, what should I do with this information? If I don't find a way to convey the message that this information is important and this is what you should be doing with that, they will probably fail to remember that. So the key with these questions is that when it comes to the presentation, I may be the one, or you may be the one on the stage with the lights shining on you, with the camera facing you, with everybody looking at you. We might fall into the delusion that, well, I'm the star. But no, actually the star of the show is the audience, because they will be the ones to take your message or not to take it, to listen to you or not to listen to you. Clearly need to define what it is that they are going to gain if they take this message, or what is it that they're going to lose if they take this message and not act on it. So I need to be able to clearly identify from the perspective of my audience their benefits, their gains, or their losses, and convey them so that they can take a better informed decision. But they still may need some help. They may need some hand-holding, especially if I want them to move in a certain direction. It's very possible that they will show resistance. Anticipating those resistance points is also one of the responsibilities as a presenter. So these are the things for the first pillar of the presentation preparation, the content. Of course, this is a topic that we can talk for days and for a much longer time, but for brevity, for the sake of brevity, these are the main points that I wanted to share with you in terms of the content. And now I would like to move to the second pillar, which is the design. And in this case, I love this phrase from Leonardo da Vinci, where he says, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. The more we entertain the idea of simplicity in the presentation, it's going to be better for the audience to digest and for them to be able to actually understand it. And my number one rule in this case is minimize the text. For the reasons I mentioned in the beginning, it's a very complicated process for the brain to ingest, to digest all the text that it sees. So it's very easy to block. I recommend that you minimize the text, especially if you're using slides. You minimize the text and divide the slides into multiple slides if necessary. Now, in this case, when I say this, one of the biggest resistance points that I get is, what about my slide count? It increases. Well, I was going to have 20 slides, but now I have 30 or 40 slides. My answer is very simple. Do not care about the slide count. As long as you are able to convey the message clearly, if it requires that you use twice the number of slides, go with it. Increase your slide count. Don't worry about that. Minimize the text and divide the slides into multiple slides as long as it's necessary. And when choosing visuals for the presentation, I recommend that you mess with their emotions. You choose the images so that it invokes the emotion that you want to convey. You know, there can be many emotions that you can convey, and use using the images with the emotional context, with the emotional content is a good way of actually invoking those emotions in the audience. You can also use colors. You can also use color schemes to invoke certain emotions. I recommend that you pick one or two based on the emotion, based on the sentiment that you want to convey. Again, with the images, it's very easy to find something with a white background. Quickly conveys the idea that, yeah, I didn't put too much time into this presentation, so you're seeing this. With one click, with only one single click in PowerPoint or in any other presentation software, you're able to remove those white backgrounds. One of my pet peeves about presentation is not only this guy, but things like this. And sometimes people ask me, when should I use animated images which loop constantly and indefinitely? When should I use them? And my answer is never. I cannot see any reason as to why a message could be amplified by using something that moves on the screen. The idea of the visuals are to accompany your message. So your slides are not the show, you are the show. And anything that moves behind you, especially continuously, will take attention from you and is going to make people focus on something else rather than you. One of the other things that is increasing with each version of the software is typefaces. There are so many of them right now. But again, just with the visuals, just with the overall sense of brevity, I recommend that you choose one or two typefaces, maybe three maximum. Again, in line with your message, in line with the sentiment that you want to convey. Just like Comic Sans, I also recommend that you avoid overuse and cliche visuals like hands shaking in the sky, or people with thumbs up, or like this girl here who is extremely happy in front of the computer. I think we're done with these visuals, and in order to create a sense of authenticity, a sense of effectiveness in visual sense, you can use your original images, you can use much more high quality images. So where to find them? Look, the internet is filled with them. There is a mountain of resources as far as these free images websites are concerned. Using visuals is a very good way of conveying the message, but there may be some cases where you may say, look, this topic requires that I write these three texts on the same slide, and I have to show them together. In this case, rather than showing the entire text, let's say you're going to share 3 items, rather than showing the entire items, all of the items at the same time, and hoping that the audience will focus on you or whatever you're talking, you can use builds. This is one of the most effective, one of the easiest ways of making sure that the audience follows you as you speak. The first item comes up only when I'm ready. And when I tell you that, well, the quickest method for simplifying your text is using builds. Only when you decide that it is time to move from the first one to the second one, you hit the click, and then the second one comes in. The first one fades out, but is still on the slide. Only when you're finished with the second one and you want to move to the third one, you can hit next, and then the third item comes, and then the second one also falls into the background. This way, this is just one slide. This way, you're able to put 3 items on the slide. The method of using the builds is one of the strongest and the most powerful ways that you can direct your audience's attention to the very thing that you're talking about at that moment. One of my other pet peeves about the presentations is using the white background. Look, I understand we are coming from a time where we literally had to dim the lights because the machines were not strong enough, so people couldn't see things unless they were white. But I think it is time that we embrace our dark side. Don't be afraid of that. I think all the equipment these days are powerful enough to show even the darkest thing that you want to put on the presentation. And it's actually better on the eyes, especially if you're in front of a large group of people. If there's a large screen behind you, I mean, poor people, they are exposed with that white light. I recommend that you differentiate yourself by using like a dark theme or something that is in line with darker colors. Now, simplification not only applies to the text, not only applies to the images, but especially to your charts if you're using them. The same thing applies here. Like the message that you were talking before, when a chart is shown to the person, they shouldn't be confused. They shouldn't be thinking, what am I supposed to see here? Okay, I see a lot of things, but what am I supposed to focus? Now, when you see the slide, it's very possible for you to focus on a different part. You can be focusing on the, let's say, the yellow bar because it's the highest, or the red because you like color red. As the presenter, it is my responsibility to make sure that when you look at the chart, you focus on Q3. And there are very simple, very easy steps of doing that. You just highlight what's important, and then you still keep the same information on the chart, which may be used for comparison, but you can remove anything that is unnecessary, and you can highlight everything, or in this case, the one thing that is important. Speaking of elimination, I also recommend that you eliminate redundancy. For example, this is a typical line chart talking about sales versus profits. And the story that I'm telling is, yes, our sales are going up, but our profits are going down. Instead of doing that, just eliminate everything that is not necessary, put the labels onto the lines. They are able to see that you're talking about sales increasing, but at the same time, you're talking about your profits declining. That should be a difficult conversation to have. One more thing about charts is treating your data fairly, being just, being honest, being 100% open. So whatever you choose to place on each slide, could be text, could be graphics, could be charts, could be images, whatever. I recommend, in fact, I urge that you create breathing space. What I mean by breathing space is this. This is a slide, and in the middle of the slide, there's a box. Now, I have so much white space around the slide. I have so much space that it would be very easy to make this box as big as possible. But when I look at how premium brands advertise, I notice that they use a lot of white space. When I say white space, I mean the space around the object, which is empty. They use a lot of empty space. So they put the product in the middle, and there is so much space around, which, in my opinion, increases, amplifies the value of the thing that you're showing, in the middle of either the advertising or the slide. So don't be afraid of creating breathing space. However you choose to design the slide, remember to treat them as advertising boards. Let's say you have 3 seconds for the audience to understand. It shouldn't take more than that. And one of the tools that I would like to show is the slide sorter, the tool that actually gives you an overall look on your presentation. The slide sorter view actually is a strong tool to give you an overall sense of your presentation, and I suggest that you use it. Look, I understand at the end of the day, it's very easy to treat our slides as artwork. It's very easy to fall into the trap of treating the slides as artwork, and I understand that. But at the end of the day, we need to let go of perfection. We can spend so much time into designing the slides. We can spend so much time making it better and better and better, but there is no end to it. Slides are, at the end of the day, are visual tools to accompany my message. They are not the main presentation. You are the main presentation. Okay, to be honest with you, I had one more thing. And okay, really, this is the last thing, but it is super important, so I would like to share that with you. Now, remember when I told you not to turn your face, not to turn your back on the audience and to use the presenter screen? It is one of the strongest tools that you can use to maintain eye contact with your audience. It is super easy. but I don't know why it is one of the least utilized. It is one of the most underutilized tools in the presentation world. And what it does is it gives you a screen like this. This is super useful because in this screen in front of you, you are able to see what is on the current slide, even without looking at the slide behind you. You are able to see what's coming up. Okay, I'm talking about this slide and this slide is coming up, so I may use a connection like this to transition smoothly. It also gives you presenter notes that you can write for yourself as reminders, as key points that no one else sees, only you see them. And at the bottom, it gives you a timeline of the presentation, where you are and where you're headed. It also shows you what the current time is and how long you've been speaking. And in order to use this, it's very easy to convert even your existing presentations in a very easy fashion. For example, let's say you have a slide like this that you're going to talk about marketing stuff, and then you have a chart, and then you have some speaking points. Now, remember, minimizing text. Actually, this is one of the best ways you can do that. You simply take those text on the slide and carry it down to where it says click to add notes, which you may have ignored until now. I know I did for years. I didn't know what it was. Well, this is what it is. You take those texts and put it there. So now you have more space on your slide to increase the size of the chart, to minimize the text, to increase the way that you can communicate with your audience. And of course, those notes are now visible to you in the presenter screen. If you want to refer to them, you can, they're right in front of you. But of course, for this, you will need to position the computer in front of you in a way that you're going to be able to see it and others won't. Those are the things that I wanted to share with you today. The pillars of content, design, and delivery. There are very good subject matters on this topic. So there are many books that I recommend for reading, but these are my favorite, and other books that I recommend. Speaking of books, warning, potential self-promotion.
That was amazing, and I don't want to take your time, but there are, first of all, Alper wrote a book. That was the last slide. So ask him for this book. That is brand new. It's fresh out of the print, and get it. And get in touch with Alper. I wrote you the email address of Alper. You can have one-on-ones with him. He helped a lot of people so far to tweak their presentations so they stand in front of boards and companies and reporting, making compelling presentations. So boring people became very inspirational. I put your email address, alper.rozanes@isg.com, here into this site chat. And you can either ask it directly from Alper and ask him also for one-on-ones or seminars, whatever you like, or you go through ISG and ask us, and we will help you to come to Alper. I don't want to take any further advantage of your time, all of you, the participants and the speakers. Thank you very much for this.
My pleasure as always.
Very deep, and I can see you just slightly touched the points. There's a lot of more you can give on each point, I had the feeling. And I guess that can be a one-day workshop also. And when you have one, please let me know. I will definitely come.
I'll do that. Okay, I'll do that.
To that. Buy the book, see the video again. I guess watching the video, we will make it available to you. That will help you again to remember. And thank you very much for your time. Have a wonderful week and see you next week.
I just want to thank you everyone for coming, for taking the time, and it has been a real pleasure, and I really appreciate that. Thank you.
And when you go away, say bye-bye, open your mics and say
like this.
Thank you, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, David, how are you?
I'm here again. I'm with you all the time.
So,
Bye-bye. Have a nice day.
For sharing.
You
Thanks
too.
for all efforts.
Thank you.